The natural question, now that the Supreme Court has ruled that Donald Trump has total immunity when it comes to official presidential acts, and may have immunity, depending on what lower courts decide, with regard to what we might call pseudo-official acts, what could Joe Biden do legally? The obvious supposition, the natural question is, if Biden determines officially as president of the United States that Donald Trump represents a threat to the national security of this country, can't Joe Biden have Trump assassinated and be immune? Now, I know that right-wingers are going to try to gaslight you into thinking you are being gaslit by those who say, what about Biden assassinating Trump? What about Biden imprisoning Trump? But if you can argue that it is an official act, then by definition, it would be an act for which the president is immune. All of a sudden, it'll quickly become immunity if you are a Republican, right? Because we know that that's what fundamentally this is really about. But let's stop short if it's too cartoonish to go to Biden assassinating Trump officially as his role defending the United States, or Biden imprisoning Trump by fiat, by declaration, because he is a threat to the United States. Okay, let's stop short of that. What about Biden simply saying, I am going to manipulate the election results? This is what Trump tried to do, but he failed. But certainly the election and whether one remains president relates directly to your official role as president. So what would stop, legally speaking, President Biden from going to the voting machine companies and saying, you need to make me the winner. I order you under threat of imprisonment. Make me the winner according to what your machines say. Certainly you could get lawyers that would argue that that is an official act. And in the next segment, we will actually see that Donald Trump's lawyers are now making the case that when Trump tried to get involved in sending those slates of fake electors in Arizona and Wisconsin to go, hey, you know, even though Biden won the popular vote in these states, we're here to cast our electoral votes for Donald Trump. Trump's lawyers are going to argue that was an official act, that it related to Trump's role as president, having information about who was the true and rightful winner of those states. And therefore, Trump obviously acted as president based on his true belief that he won those states to send those fake electors forward to cast their ballots for Donald Trump. So we have a real situation on our hands here, and you are going to see the small government conservatives, the conservatives who have been spending the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years arguing against executive power and presidents should have less power, who not only defended everything Trump did and tried to do while he was president, but will now defend this extraordinary decision by the Supreme Court. So question 2 becomes, will Trump argue that everything he's been indicted for was an official act? I believe the answer is yes. Many in the audience know my first language is Spanish. I learned English later when I moved to the United States. And these days I do a fair amount of traveling, and I always make an effort to learn some of the new language before I get to the country. I've tried a bunch of methods for this. I keep coming back to the app Babbel, because with Babbel, you really can start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks. Instead of paying hundreds of dollars for classes or fooling yourself with language apps that are basically just simple games, Babbel is designed by real people for real conversations. All of Babbel's tools are approachable. They are rooted in real life situations. They're delivered with conversation-based teaching. You might have seen on my Instagram, I was recently in France. Babbel got me ready last minute. I got to France. I was ready to order food, ask for directions, talk to people at stores and hotels without having to use my phone to translate. There are studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and others that continue to prove that Babbel is better. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is like a semester of that language at college. With over 10 million subscriptions sold, Babbel is real language learning for real conversations. Here's a special limited time deal for my audience. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for my audience at babbel.com/Pacman. Rules and restrictions may apply. The link is in the description.